Welcome to the podcast of the impossible. I'm Peter Wood, and my guest this week is one of the top children's entertainers in the Washington, D.C. area. It's the great Zucchini.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Peter.
There we go. I'm so excited to be doing this. This is awesome.
My own theme music. I love
right? Yeah.
I mean, style.
Don't listen to any other episodes, and then I'll make you think that that's just for you. That's all, you know. So I'm so excited to be hanging out here in the parlor of the impossible with my friend Eric, aka the Great Zucchini.
Yeah.
And I've got a bunch of questions. I genuinely want to try to ask you questions that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
Because not only am I just curious myself, but also I feel like it. You know, our friend listening would be interested in it.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you used to work at like Discovery Zone?
Yeah.
Kids play. Tell me. I want to hear the origin story, basically.
Yeah. Know? So basically, so I was a teacher, preschool sort of teacher for a while, early on, out of high school, and then after that, so I was doing that during the week, you know, because the school was open during the week, and then on weekends, I would work at one of those kids' parties places. In this case, it was called Discovery Zone.
Yeah.
And my whole job was to entertain the kids that came back to my party room, and which you know, you got paid like $2 an hour, like sort of like waiters.
Okay.
But the parents would usually tip you, like if you did a good job, sort of as a party host. And so I was just this young kid, and I would do whatever I could to try to entertain the kids that were in my particular party room because we're getting paid like $2 an hour.
Right,
I wanted to try to make good tips. You know, as a young person, like trying to make good tips, like a waiter would or waitress. You know,
sure.
And I would do whatever I could, like fall over chairs or walk out. You know, have cake eating contests with the kids in the party room, and I would. You know, I'd always walk out with cake on my face or whatever I could do to entertain the kids. And then one day the manager came over to me with this, you know, bunch of forms, and you know, all these people had requested to have their parties, you know, at Discovery Zone. And she said, "Do you realize what's different about these forms on here?" And I said, "No, not really." And she goes, "Well, if you look at the bottom, 38 out of these 40 forms are requesting you to specifically to host their child."
Right. Oh, cool.
So then it just dawned on me, Peter, and I was like, wait a second. Maybe I could do this on my own.
You might be able to make $4 an hour if you did it on your own, you know.
Yeah, $4 an hour. And then, you know, and I didn't know that there was a business like that. I mean, we all have that light that goes off where you realize that there's actually people out there entertaining.
Sure.
Kids, you know, and you see the light, you don't realize at first, wait, people are doing that?
Right.
So when I started out, I just said, hey, there's people doing that. Maybe, you know, I could, you know, create a show that's for younger kids. And,
sure.
You know, when I started, people were like, no, you know, 3-4-year-olds won't understand magic. You can't do a show for that age. And I'm like,
yeah,
I bet you could. You just can't do. You got to do things they're into.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've described you to especially magician friends, but even just like non-magician friends. I've sort of described it as a prop comic for preschoolers. You know, where like you've realized that the magic plot has to be either very simple or honestly doesn't even really matter. Like if they're surprised by whatever it is, surprise can feel like magic in their mind. And so it's a very different kind of magic show than what you would expect.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And I don't stay on one trick longer than about 4 seconds.
Yeah. I mean,
pick up something else and see.
It's crazy. The amount of stuff you bring, like I'm often thinking about in my show, like cubic inch to minute on stage, like how big is this thing? And then how much time will it use up on stage?
Yeah.
And if it's a big thing that only takes me 30 seconds, I'm probably not bringing it because it's too, you know, but like you've been able to figure out, and you bring a little more stuff than me, but not by a lot. I mean, you still pack small, play big, you know?
Yeah. Like it's, you know, sometimes the things just come to me, like I'll be walking on the boardwalk, you know, and I'll, you know, my mom lives in Rehoboth. So if I'm down at the beach and I'll be walking on the boardwalk, I will always go inside a toy store.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm always seeing little trinket things that I can use, or I'm like, or a CVS. I'll see something at a CVS that I'm like, that's perfect for my thing. And like,
nice.
So yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for that, for the quick sort of angle, or something lights up, something's flashy. Cause I just know my audience, my audience is, you're usually sort of competing with TV a little bit, where TV will flash something else and flash something else. And I try to create my show that way, where it's like, oh yeah, we're doing this over here, but then now I'm over here. Now
right.
Keep moving. So
it cracks me up. Like when I watch your show, you'll get a kid up on stage and they hold something for like 10 seconds and then applause and like, oh, that was great, thank you so much. And so you're getting like 20 or 30 kids up on stage, and each one is
not
literally
really doing that much. Okay.
but part of the genius of it is that like, I know that when I bring a kid up on stage, that is when their parent or whoever they're with brings out the camera and takes a picture or films it.
Yeah,
and so you've got a really good sort of kid to minute ratio where like a whole bunch of kids end up on stage during your show. And I think that's smart.
Well, thank you for saying that. So one of the things about it too is when I get a kid up there, sometimes I don't really know what, I'm going to have them do necessarily.
Sure.
Sometimes they're standing next to me, but the kids themselves are kind of hysterical. So I actually like to try to talk to them in front of the audience, because sometimes their responses are just funny in themselves. So sometimes they might not be up there to make it snow all over the room and to make it, have flashy, paper or something. But I'll just be like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then their answers are funny, or like, hey, what does your dad do for work? And then and then to have a 3-year-old answer that, they're actually adding to the show. So I like to just bring them up just to have a conversation with them in front of people, even though sometimes like I know they're not really I'll have a magic wand or have something that they can hold, but I don't really have them do so much, because I'm working in volume. I like to try to get as many kids up there as possible.
Yep. Yeah.
So
no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I've been in the audience where you've done that sort of. I mean, a comedian would say it's crowd work, right? Like the point is the whole classic talking in the front, where you're like, hey, where are you from? What do you do? Like you're literally doing that with preschoolers, and it's often much more hilarious than anything you could have written. With their responses.
Oh yeah, especially I mean, just and I try to create that sort of awe factor in the show.
Sure.
When you see a 3-year-old up there, like just talking about like his life,
right?
I mean, the looks on everybody's faces are like, oh,
yeah.
And so I like, you can't, you have that with preschoolers. They give you that. They charm the audience for you because they're funny.
Sure.
So.
Well, and you have a very specific age range.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think that makes you successful is that you not only found that age range early, but kind of realized that it was an underserved market where there are a lot of people who want a magic show for their 3 or 4-year-old's birthday. And what they actually want, I mean, is what you're delivering, but what they actually want is like a clown that's not creepy, or a comedian that tells jokes for kids, or, and so you've been able to figure out sort of how to, under the label of magician,
right?
But again, like, there are magic moments in your show, but it's not not typical,
right? Know? Well, what I've always told people is that my show is like, it's never magic that that an actual magician would ever think is
right,
like
sure.
yourself, that's a magician. So an actual, magicians have, I've had magicians tell me, like, they were friends of mine, and they would say, man, you don't really do one real trick in your whole show, dude. I'm like, no, that's pretty much true. Yeah. But it's magic for, it's magic for what a 4-year-old would think was magic. So for instance, even though all the magicians in the world know what a mouth coil is, for instance. Like to a 4-year-old, that's pretty magical. So I try to look at what's magical in their eyes. So it's my tricks are not any tricks to take practice or like any sort of skill level like that. But I also I also think that, but I try to create it so that a 3-year-old would think it's magic. So when you take out that 10-foot pole out of a paper bag, to a 3-year-old, that's pretty magical.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think you're smart about what your audience finds to be magical or not. Yeah. I mean, and again, like simple plots, but I think another thing that's important. I don't think enough parents think about this, but like, it's a very empowering show because kids at that age are constantly learning how the world works, and grown-ups have all the answers.
Yeah.
And when you are able to flip that script, and you are missing something that is totally obvious to them, it is. I mean, the word magic gets overused because like it's a Mr. Clean magic eraser or whatever. But like, but that I'm sure that gives them a certain level of magic inside because like this idiot doesn't even know blah blah blah. Yeah. I know that, and you know, and that's cool.
It's interesting you should say that because I try to actually do the show as if I'm watching my show with them.
Okay,
and then
interesting,
and then they're sort of or maybe that's a bad way to put it. Like not watching with them, but where as if I'm helping them help me fix the show as I'm going on. Because you bring up a good point. So like if I'm always acting like I'm messing up in front of them, and they correct me on it, of course, and they'll say, they'll yell out the right answer, which is where I'm leading them anyways.
Sure.
But I really like when the kids are involved sort of that way, and it just makes me feel like, they're part of the show, and I try to make it seem like they're helping me fix the show as I go along. Like I'm acting surprised that something happens, as they're already seeing it before I pretend like I don't see it. So I'm like, what? I can't believe that just happened, and like. And I feel like they're, so we're sort of a team. They're correcting me, but they're up here, and I'm trying to catch up to them.
Sure, yeah. No, I mean that especially well, and so I want to go back a little bit to the jump from being a party room attendant.
Yeah,
I assume that you worked parties for 10 and 12-year-olds at Discovery Zone, right? Like it was a wider age range. Right?
Well, so Discovery Zone always sort of geared for pretty young kids. So they were 7 and under.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't realize this. I don't think I've really told many people. But before I created my show, I was doing sports parties with just basically older kids. So I was getting called to birthday parties, and remember I was in my 20s, and so I was like I would set up a baseball game for 30 10-year-olds, and I'd set up I remember Capture the Flag, remember
nice.
that game?
Okay,
We'd be playing that, and I'd have water balloon extravaganza parties where like I'd set up a whole water balloons, and we'd do water balloons for just older kids for a while. And then before I sort of started gearing my shows.
And are you booking these?
Yeah,
you're book. I mean, people came to you to book these sports parties.
Yeah, okay. They were all word of mouth. Like I didn't do any advertising for those at that time. And never advertised those.
Sure,
but they were all word of mouth, and people were like, "Hey, and I went by Eric, and people would say, "Hey, call this guy Eric. He's 24-year-old guy. Does thing. He'll come up and keep 30 10-year-olds." Entertaining games for a while.
That's cool.
I did that because I was a camp counselor for a while, and I all the camp type games, and so I would just do that for a while before I even started my show, and so I've worked with older kids quite a bit, but at Discovery Zone they were primarily younger.
I got you. I didn't realize. Well, was this the one? This is in Montgomery County somewhere, like Germantown.
It's remember the old White Flint.
Oh yeah. Okay. It was over.
It was in White Flint.
Yeah, I was trying to think because I was a little old for it, but my brother Matt, who's 5 years younger than me, I remember I think one summer we got like a Discovery Zone subscription, and it was just funny. And years later, I'm like, I wonder if Matt ever saw you doing your thing, but I don't remember if he ever went there to a birthday party. So it'd just be really funny if you guys had crossed paths.
Yeah, that'd be like Matt, remember that caking contest when you were 4?
Right. Yeah.
I helped shape her.
That's
brother.
Cool.
Yeah, no, I I loved it. I felt like it was, it's it was just been my, sometimes you just feel like you have, you're called to do certain things. And I just felt like, once God sort of steered me in the direction of working with kids, I just felt like it was kind of one of those things where like I've just never looked back. I've always just felt natural. Working as a teacher, working as a thing, I just felt like I just got that avenue. And when I developed my show, it was like people that had sort of taught with me. It was like, you're pretty much the same person in the classroom.
Yeah,
Figured out a way to do the.
Well, I always tell people like I would not want to be a teacher because I would. The whole idea of having a curriculum, like I have to make sure that these kids get this idea. You and I know have both had shows where we don't get to all the material we had planned because of interactions that have happened with the audience. And like, that's awesome. And especially if it's a show where it's a family audience and the kids are a little bit more rambunctious than usual, there will be like one whole routine. And for me, that's, 5 to 8 minutes that literally they never see. But like, whatever, we had a good time. We spent 45 minutes together and they got to see some fun things and laugh. And
I got to say,
that's it.
I love watching your show.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to say that because you, and you've always got, first of all, I've told you this before, but you always come across as very likable and approachable on stage. Like you feel like I know you, but like you feel like if somebody didn't know you and they were watching your show, they'd be like, that guy's a good dude.
Okay,
like
good.
It comes across on stage.
It's really hard to fake that, but I'm glad it comes across.
You just never act rattled. Nothing rattles you on stage. I'm like, that's good. So I enjoy watching it.
Thank you.
Plus, I'm because I don't really do any real magic. I'm not a historian of it. So when I go to shows like that, I'm watching like everybody else. I am perplexed. I don't know how. That stuff. I don't get it.
No, it's fine. Well, but I'll say, I mean, on the flip side, like I've seen guys try to work the groups that you work, and they definitely don't get it. Like actually one of my favorite quotes that from you that I think about, especially when I'm talking with other performers about critiquing stuff, is stop trying to impress the invisible magician in the room. Is that roughly the idea?
That is it.
And I think that's so, I am totally guilty of it, where like I will put together a routine and I want to make sure that it would fool a bunch of my colleagues.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, and you see this sometimes on Penn and Teller Fool Us, where someone comes on there and they're so gung-ho on making a routine that fools Penn and Teller that they forget that it's also supposed to be entertaining and an easy to follow plot, and they come off as likable. Right.
Yeah.
And so I do think about, and I think that's a great lesson. And obviously, coming from you, who, as you say, like, you don't do a lot. You're definitely not trying to impress any magicians in the room, invisible or otherwise.
No. I've given up on trying to impress any magicians a long time ago. Yeah, I just, I just always felt like I just know for children's entertainers specifically and people that do these particular ages, a lot of times, I think people just assume like, what are people that are going to, or maybe the fathers in the audience that are hobbyists that know little magic, and I want to make sure that fool that guy. And I honestly gear my shows strictly for the kids. Now, it's not like I won't throw a few lines in for the parents that I think are funny. If something happens funny at a party, and I'll be like, if a kid says, I remember this past weekend, I said it to a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, a doctor. And I looked at the parents and I'm like, that's because he knows the cost of living in this area. So,
Nice.
I'll have fun. I love having fun with the parents too. Yeah. But what I'm saying is the show is designed for just basically my audience. And so I don't, as far as the fool aspect, I really like, I have other magicians come watch my shows at public arenas and things, and I just try to take out the part of whereas I'm worried really about them looking at my technique and things like that. Sure. I just want them strictly to look at the response of my audience.
That's
because that's what we're all going for.
I mean, I've said before, like, I think the best way to watch your show, I want you in the middle of the room facing a group of kids, and I want all the parents to be behind you watching the kids, you know?
Yeah.
Because that, like, the show is not, for them, the show is not what you're doing. The show is how they're reacting.
Yeah.
And that's what they're paying for, and that's why they booked you, and that's what they're getting.
Well,
you know?
and that's why, like, if I can give you another kudos,
that's why I invited you here, just to compliment
I told Christy upstairs, I was like, I literally don't know where I would be without you.
Oh, thank you.
But you're obviously, I don't know if your listeners know this, but you have many talents, and not just magic, but you do phenomenal things with with websites and graphic work, and my website looks phenomenal. But that was what I was going for with the website. Was I don't want just pictures of me all over my website. I want pictures of kids reacting to what I'm doing on the show, and that's why that was important for me to show that, because that's what we all want. The parents and I are on the same team at a party where we want to get the best possible reaction out of their kids, for the party, and that's all we want. So, the guys that I've seen magicians, like, magic forms. Sometimes they'll post and be like, Gracie Kinney doesn't even do any real magic. And that's true. It's true.
But you'll be the first to admit it.
I know, I'll be the first to admit it. It's so true.
Sure.
But I like the magic to be in just the hearing the laughter of the kids. Like that.
Yeah.
I know that sounds corny and cheesy and stuff, but no, I really like that. When you have a kid's cracking up for 40 minutes, I mean, it is there's no better sound in the world. Yeah.
And the term belly laugh, is the right term that I've heard you use before, and I've heard it happen during the show. Like it's not the chuckle. It's not even just the regular laugh. It is the, like, kids falling over, holding their stomachs because they're laughing so hard. And that's the goal.
And that's just, like, I'm telling you, Peter, like, where else do we show up to work and you get that?
It's so crazy. It's awesome.
And I still, to this day, 30 years later, I don't know if you feel the same way because you have your own business as well, but like you still sometimes pinch yourself and you're like, I can't believe I'm doing something that I enjoy. Parents, still bring me into their homes and things like that. Something that I enjoy years later. It's just like,
it's really cool.
Yeah, it's no better feeling than just,
certainly lucky.
My car is not loving all the miles. But
it's all right. We'll work on it. Well, I want to talk. We should do this again. I want to. That's actually probably going to be that's it for this episode.
All right.
For our friend who's watching, they've been able to see underneath the screen the whole time. But for anyone who's listening in, your website is thegreatzucchini.com.
Yeah.
And then on Facebook, if you look for The Great Zucchini, then you'll be able to find you on there and see all of your adventure type
I might
stuff.
actually ask you to put this on my website.
Yeah, look at that. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That's going to be it for this episode of the podcast, The Impossible.
Bye, everybody. See you on another episode.
Yeah. And if you're not just Zucchini's website, but if you want to check out any of my public shows or social media and special projects and more, you can head on over to oftheimpossible.com. I'm Peter Wood. Thanks.
Bye, everybody. That's great.